Hello and welcome to Should Have Sent a Poet, a podcast about the stories we tell beyond the stars. My name is Natalie Bickelhaupt, and today I am alone. Normally I would be joined by my lovely co-host, Natalie Epstein-Hogue, but due to a lot of different circumstances, we haven't been able to record a normal episode, so we are trying something new. I am going to be reading an essay about the new Stephen Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day. It is normally something that would go up on my film review blog, Millimeter by Millimeter, which you can check out in the episode description, but because of everything that we have going on, we wanted to put something out into the world for you guys, and this was kind of a happy accident that I wrote this, and that we had the opportunity to do something special and experimental just because of the way things shaked out. So I hope this is something that you guys like. As a heads up, I am going to be spoiling Disclosure Day, which is, I want to make that clear just because it is a new movie. The movies that we've been talking about on this podcast so far are a decade old, minimum. And so good to give everyone a heads up about that. I'm also going to be talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the fourth Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is a real interesting one. If you like this experimental format, if this is something that you enjoy, please let us know and we can try and do it more often. It's something that, I love writing, and for the podcast, I don't normally get to do a bunch of formal writing. So this was kind of cool to adapt what would be an article into an episode, and I do want to say thank you to Natalie for editing this. She isn't here recording with me. I'm doing this alone right now, but I do appreciate everything she does on the back end. She's really amazing, and so I want to make sure you guys show her some love because she is very special. So without further ado, I think I'm just going to jump right into the actual reading, and I hope you guys enjoy. I recently saw Stephen Spielberg's latest film, Disclosure Day. The latest entry in his alien oeuvre, it seems to have been a quiet success. Garnering middling to positive reviews, it is likely to go down as one of Spielberg's weaker efforts despite its box office gains. I find it telling that, when I bring it up, people respond, "I saw the trailers but didn't hear anything about it." Its impact seems fleeting, if not disappointing. I, at the very least, was disappointed. Spielberg has an expansive catalog of alien movies. His first feature-length film, the now lost Firelight, was about first contact with aliens. His other works in the field include the seminal Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, War of the Worlds, and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. His alien-centric output is, to put it lightly, prolific. That fact makes the ultimate weakness of Disclosure Day all the more painful. It is in stiff competition with some of the most beloved films of all time, and fails to match their quality. Spielberg's alien movies are quite varied, ranging from E.T.'s targeted audience of families to War of the Worlds post-9/11 rottenness. There are, however, some considerable through lines. One such commonality runs from Close Encounters to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to Disclosure Day. All three of these films share a character who, after glimpsing the truth of alien life, undergoes some form of mental metamorphosis. Close Encounters Ranieri, played by Richard Dreyfuss, becomes obsessed with a mysterious obelisk in his mind after a UFO sighting. The object seems to fill his every waking thought, compelling him to externalize the image in any way he can find. Throughout the film, he begins sculpting increasingly elaborate and involved recreations of the haunting visit. What starts as an urge to shape a pile of shaving cream turns into an absent-minded need to sculpt a pile of mud sitting beside him, half paying attention to the conversation he finds himself in. Later, we get one of the most bizarrely harrowing scenes in film history. Roy, now unemployed and increasingly erratic, joins his family at the dinner table. A bowl of mashed potatoes changes hands, and while scooping himself a portion, he becomes engrossed. One scoop turns to 6, forming a mound on his plate. He doesn't pass the bowl, he merely drops it on the table. Instead, he takes a fork and begins shaping the mass into the obelisk that fills his mind, what is later revealed to be Devil's Tower in Wyoming. As he works, his wife stares on in horror. His son, scared of the stranger at the dinner table, watches silently as tears stream down his face. His offering complete, he snaps out of the stupor and is confronted with just how concerning his behavior is. He too breaks down, explaining that he's a little different, a little unwell, but still dad. It is heartbreaking. What should have been a proper wake-up call ultimately goes unanswered as he builds a clay sculpture on the top of his miniature train table. The sculpture is quickly subsumed by a massive scale model constructed from the dirt and stone around his suburban home. Over the course of the film, Devil's Tower manifests in larger and larger feats as it looms ever larger in his mind. Several scenes are devoted to the domestic strife this obsession causes, culminating in a scene where Roy has what appears to be a full psychotic break. Soaking and shaking in the shower well into the night, his wife finds him and insists the family go to therapy. All Roy can do is beg to be held in the face of an overwhelmed mind. He is left shattered by the truth, and for 15 minutes, Close Encounters delves into one of Spielberg's secret obsessions, cosmic horror. It feels like an unlikely combination, American icon Spielberg and unadulterated existential dread. But on closer inspection, half of his alien movies include Lovecraftian sensibilities. They feature protagonists permanently changed by their encounters with the stars beyond and those who inhabit them. Roy Neary is the most explicitly upsetting of these characters thanks to how debilitating his experience really is, not to mention the unspeakable impact on his children. Close Encounters may be the most visceral, but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Disclosure Day dabble in the silent horror as well. Crystal Skull has Harold Oxley, a friend and former colleague of Jones's who became obsessed with the lost city of Akator. When we finally meet Oxley, he is a silent, shaken man. Under the spell of the titular Crystal Skull, he clings to it as though it's his own heart. His ultimate goal is to deliver the skull to the city, a mission seemingly imposed on him by his contact with and understanding of the aliens at the end of the film. Just like Neary, Oxley is rendered disabled after his first contact. The strain running through Spielberg's work often goes unremarked upon. Spielberg tends towards optimism, which makes the genuine darkness of these beats all the more interesting. They are an indulgence in the fear that pervades first contact narratives. Rather than playing directly to the fears of colonization, he instead imagines a scenario in which one's world is so fundamentally changed that they can no longer cope. So how does Disclosure Day fare in this filmic canon? It is Spielberg's most explicit and substantive foray into cosmic horror yet, but falls flat in most regards. Visually, I found it severely lacking, with an odd washed-out color grading and inexplicable adoration for lens flares. It felt clinical and close to the paint-by-numbers visual language of Disney productions. I was similarly frustrated with Spielberg's crack at the subject matter. The film ends up being about the right to know, the inherent virtue of unobstructed truth. The truth, in this case, is that aliens are real, and an extra-governmental organization has been covering up their existence for half a century. I see the value in this message, the importance of what it's trying to say. However, the other half of this recipe is that the aliens have been abused, tortured, imprisoned, and experimented on for those 50 years. Yet, the language of the main characters does not, we must help these fellow travelers. Instead, they focus on the necessity of revealing the truth, as though knowledge alone will put an end to what has been going on. This may be uncharitable, but it feels like a liberal call to silently document tragedies rather than fight the perpetrators. There is something genuine and moving at the heart of this movie, but it is couched in a seeming adherence to inaction that renders the whole ordeal rather ridiculous. Characters say the people must know the truth, but it's unclear what happens after that. Perhaps we will shed enough tears to right the blood that has been spilled. The one thing I can praise, however, is Emily Blunt's standout performance as Margaret Fairchild, a meteorologist turned cornerstone of the fight to reveal the truth. As a child, Margaret encountered and was experimented on by aliens. Turned into a sort of sleeper agent, she repressed the memory until the events of the film. In her first moments with her, a cardinal flies into her apartment and begins to unlock whatever was stored deep inside her. Slowly remembering her experience with aliens, she becomes a conduit for their power. This notably manifests itself in what the film calls supernatural levels of empathy. This empathy allows Margaret to look a person in the eyes and know their history in an instant, who they love, what they're struggling with, and how to help them. While it is a serious boon to those around her, Margaret comes to resent the powers almost immediately because it feels as though someone else is in her mind. She has thoughts that are not her own. She feels the urge to travel and meet people she does not know, and is unable to curb the sensation in any meaningful way. It is an addiction she can't kick, a thought she can't shake, a visceral loss of autonomy. On the other side of her journey, however, there is hope. Spielberg often shows us a world reborn in the light of unfiltered truth. Like his leads, they experience great pains in the face of new knowledge. He paints with great empathy how difficult a reckoning can be. No matter the type, whether that be personal, political, spiritual, it hurts. Ultimately, that is the heart of these works. They are about confronting the unlikely, inconvenient, and uncomfortable truth and growing from the experience. At the end of these films, each character burdened with knowledge experiences some great relief. Neary is invited aboard the mothership by the aliens. Oxley basks in the glow of one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever, and Fairchild becomes the most important journalist in the world. By carrying the truth and making it digestible to others, each is rewarded with what they want most. The villains of these films fear the truth and what it will do to the wider population. They worry that it will ruin the world in some nebulous way, that it may upend religion or capitalism or the idea of the state itself. Spielberg would like you to think that they're right. In his world, truth begets change. However, in our world, truth alone is not so powerful. Spielberg's ultimate fantasy is that the work stops at revelation, that there is no next step. Unfortunately, it is only the first. He imagines a world where the transformative power of truth, while uneasy, is the end of the conflict. However, in this finality, it fails to be wielded. He conceptualizes it as a force to be unleashed, rather than a resource and tool to be used by human hands. That is my frustration with Disclosure Day. As the film most engaged in this dialogue, it fails to meet the moment. What could have been a call to action is instead a call to observe. Spielberg says the truth will set you free, but fails to recognize that truth does not have hands to untie your bonds. In a world yearning for the step after revelation, he fails to imagine a brighter future. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and my little look into Disclosure Day. I hope it's a movie that we can talk about in greater length at some point. But my main takeaway is just that it had some really cool concept, it just really fell flat visually, and also the audio was really, really terrible in that movie, just like weirdly silent in some ways that I find like absolutely baffling. There's like this whole sequence with like a train and sort of like a car chase that's going on, and there's just like no music underneath it, and it's just like unsettling in a way that feels unintentional. Anyways, it's worth watching if you're into this podcast. I think you'll probably find it like interesting and compelling in some way, even if you don't enjoy it like I didn't. And I hope you at least enjoyed my insights into it, and also the weird cosmic horror bent that a lot of Spielberg's work seems to take. It's something that hadn't really clicked for me before, especially just because, I don't know, it's probably more apparent in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull than it is in Close Encounters, but Disclosure Day really put it on full display, and I think he could have done something really cool with it, but just didn't end up doing that, and instead sort of did a sort of weaker outcome than what I would have liked, less realized and thought through than I think the concept really deserves. But that is going to do it. We should be back in a couple weeks with a regular episode. If all things go according to plan, that episode should be Landscape with Invisible Hand. But until then, you can find our Patreon, social medias down below. You can read my blog, Millimeter by Millimeter, which is a movie review blog that I run. You can also listen to Natalie's music, which is really excellent and amazing. There will be links to that. And you can follow us individually on social medias. And I think that is going to do it. Until next time, be good and watch movies.